This week I chat with William Schatz, the author of The Linux Command Line, a book all about, well, how to get stuff done in Linux in the shell. It's a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned. This is FLOSS Weekly, episode 864, recorded Tuesday, February the 10th. Work hard, save money, retire early. Hey folks, it's time for FLOSS Weekly. That's the show about free, Libre, and open source software. I'm your host, Jonathan Bennett, and today we're going to lean into that open source software, the Linux side of things, and the command line. And that's because we've got Bill. We've got Bill. Oh my goodness, what's his last name?
Schatz.
Bill Schatz. That's right. I had the emails up. I have the email up. I have the bio up. And it just has his first name in the email, and it doesn't have his name at the top of the bio. That's all right. Bill Schatz, the author of the book, The Linux Command Line, which was something of an online document first. And it's become a modern classic. It's been around for quite a while. We were comparing notes before the show started about which came first, whether it was FLOSS Weekly or the book. And it looks like FLOSS Weekly came before the internet edition of the Linux Command Line, but it harkens from the same era. And so looking very much forward to this conversation. Without any further ado, I will go ahead and bring the man himself on. Hey, Bill, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
It's good to have you today. So the folks at No Starch Press reached out to me and they said, hey, we've got this book. Do you know about it? I said, I've not read that book, but I'm interested. And they told me what it's about. So yeah, that's definitely down my alley. I don't know how I wasn't aware of the book. I've probably come across the document online in looking for things. But now we get to talk to the man. So tell us the story. Let's start at the beginning. At what point did you say, hey, I'm going to write this huge document of essentially command line tips, right? What was the origin story of that like?
Well, I've been a Linux user since 1996, and previous to that, I had been using Mark Williams' Coherent operating system, which was a small model Unix that you could run on PCs. Mm-hmm. And by small model, it means that the largest program you could run was 64K. And I was truly impressed with what you could do in 64K. I had Usenet news readers, I had email clients, UUCP to move stuff back and forth. I used this system for several years, starting in the late 80s. And when I discovered Linux, I was really kind of blown away about how much further along it was than Coherent. And it was a lot slicker, had a lot more features. It was a much richer environment. And of course, it was free. The Coherent was $99. And over the years, I've been mostly a Linux hobbyist. And though I did work in a Solaris shop as a leading a team of system administrators for a bunch of years, but after getting involved in this and using a lot of free and open source software for years and years, I felt like I wanted to give back. And so I created this website called linuxcommand.org, which I put up in 2000. And I wrote a series of tutorials dealing with mostly the Bash shell and the GNU core utils. And then I had a second part of it where I talked about shell scripting. And the site got to be fairly popular, and an editor from a textbook publisher reached out to me, I guess probably in 2006 or 2007, and wanted to know if I wanted to write a shell scripting book. They had a series of books dealing with Linux, and she sent me one of the books in the series, and I read through it, and I was really kind of unimpressed with their approach. It was very dry, and it wasn't very. I didn't like the structure of it. Mm-hmm. So I wrote an outline for a book of my own, which expanded on what I had done in linuxcommand.org, and sent it off to them with proposal to do a book. And then I just never heard back from them. So I had the outline written, and it was pretty extensive. And I sat down and just decided to write the book and just self-publish it and give it away. So for 2 years, roughly, I wrote a page a day until I had a book. The book, was out for, I guess it came out in 2009. And then in the fall of 2010, an editor from No Starch reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to commercially publish it. And after a long series of negotiations over a publishing agreement, I did a deal with them, and they took the internet edition and converted it into a printed book. The part of my publishing agreement with No Starch is that I get to continue making internet editions, and I've done 7 of them so far. The 7th one comes out coinciding with the 3rd print edition. The books are essentially the same, with a couple of minor differences, but nothing very significant. They're the same book. And I have the No Starch editions have sold about 150,000 copies, and my download count as of a few weeks ago is 1.7 million of the free ones.
Wow, that's great.
So I have roughly about a 10-to-1 ratio between, I give away 10 and sell 1. And it's been very successful. It's, if I have an info card on Google search now, and I describe myself as slightly famous.
I do the same. I've almost a celebrity, I think is what I've said a few times about myself.
Right.
That's funny. Yes. That's impressive. Did you expect to sell that many? Like I wouldn't have thought that a book about Linux command line that you can get for free on the internet would sell that many. That's a surprise to me.
Well, a lot of people want a printed book, and I have to give credit to the No Starch people. They really know how to do marketing. They're very good at it, and they're very good publishers. I've liked working with them a lot. They've helped me a lot in making the book better, and they're really pleasant to work with, and they are very helpful.
I have found in my work at Hackaday that good editors are amazing to work with.
Right.
And it's really something. And if people out there listening have not done this, if they've not worked with an editor, it really is a good experience. When you find a good one that'll work with you. Sometimes you have to, I don't know if you've seen this writing these books, I have with some of the columns that I've done over the years. Sometimes you have to leave your ego at the door just a little bit and be able to, swallow your pride and accept the feedback your editor is giving you. But it always makes for a better end product. And it really is something to work with a good one. I've enjoyed it.
Yes, it very much is.
Yeah.
So if there are any aspiring authors out there who have an idea for a good tech book, then, use No Starch. They're very good.
Yes. We interviewed, I don't remember his name, but we interviewed a fellow about a couple of years ago, I think it was, that wrote a book about how to write tech books. And I think his recommendation, because I did the interview and I immediately thought, hey, I could do that. And his recommendation, I believe, was to go through No Starch Press, talk to them about being potentially the publishers, because they do a lot in this area of sort of the tech stuff and the educational stuff. I quickly realized that I had enough on my plate, and in fact, I had too much on my plate. But that was my game plan. If I was going to do it, is I would start putting it together and then reach out to No Starch, because they seem like great people to work with.
Yeah. Well, if I was to suggest the methodology for writing a book, the first thing you got to do is you got to think about a good outline for it. The sequence in my book is very important. And that's why I think it's achieved the popularity that it has. That I have I wanted to teach the foundational skills of the command line, and I do it layer by layer, going through a series of essentially tutorials. And I try to build on what they've already learned and do more and more and introduce additional tools. And then finally, when I have so much stuff that they can't remember it all, then I'd start talking about shell scripting so they don't have to anymore.
Put it all in a file and then you forget about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's funny. I mean, the book pretty much embodies everything that I know. So, like, don't ask me a question outside the scope of the book because I just don't know anything else.
There is you talking about that, and there is a video of, I'm not sure if this is Dennis Ritchie or Ken Thompson, but it's like from the AT&T archives, and it's him, he's got his dress shirt with a sweater on over it, and he's leaned back, and he's got a keyboard in his lap, and he's
that's Brian Kernigan.
Kernigan, okay.
I know that video.
Yes. So anyway, he's talking about this thing that they've put together called Unix. And, it's like, well, so let's say that I've written a document and I want to spell check it. And normally you would have to use this big spell check program. He's like, but in Unix, we can just, and, he goes through this. We take the document, we sort it, and then we do a unique, and then we run it through our spell check program. And, you use pipes to redirect one command into the next. And
right.
About once a year, and I'm due another one. About once a year, I sit down and I watch that, and I just kind of marinate in it because, like, it's so great hearing from one of the original guys working on this, and it embodies a lot about what I think is really cool about doing bash scripting and making one-liners in Linux and Unix, but obviously we're primarily talking Linux here, and that's just, I don't know, it makes me feel good to watch it. And I think your book kind of has the same vibe to it. What parts of it I've seen?
Well, it's I try to teach both technique and context to a lot of the command line stuff. The Unix has a very rich heritage of command line tools and programming concepts, and so I'm sort of a traditionalist. I want people to be well read when it comes to Unix and to know how to do things in it that maybe not the most popular things anymore. Like, I have a chapter in the book on printing, which, hardly anybody does anymore, and the command line print tools. I have, a lot of stuff about text formatting because those are so essential to the history of Unix. And so I try to teach everybody what I think they ought to know, not necessarily like the most fashionable things that are popular today, like containers and virtual machines and stuff like that. But I want them to know the fundamentals of the Unix experience and to have an appreciation for, the giants on whose shoulders we stand.
Yeah, absolutely. How much in the book do you get into, like, I'm thinking of SED and awk. Those are probably the two biggest ones, but a lot of tools like that are just about topics for books unto themselves. Right.
I have a chapter on like I said, about text formatting and text editing, and I cover SED to some extent, including little SED scripts and stuff. I don't cover awk in the book, though I mention it. I have a separate, on my website, I have another section in there besides the books and the existing tutorials. I have another set called The Adventures, and on which I'm basing my second book, Adventures with the Linux Command Line.
Oh, cool.
And I have a big chapter on awk in there. I was excited to see recently that there's a new edition of the awk programming language came out a year or so ago, finally, after the original version that came out in 1985, which is really the definitive book on awk, which is a skinny little book. I got it free with a DOS-based version of awk that I got back in the late 80s. And that book is fantastically expensive. the first edition. I mean, they were charging like $70 a copy for this thing, and it's like about a three-eighths of an inch thick. And I was just horrified at what that publisher was getting away with. So, but recently they've come out with a new edition of the book by the original authors. They're still breathing, and it's much more sensibly priced. So I recommend people get that if they're interested in awk. Get the awk programming language book.
Is it worthwhile still to learn awk and sed?
I think so. I mean, particularly awk. I think awk is a really fun language to work in. It's very C-like. So if you're C curious, you could certainly learn a lot from using awk. And awk is really good at certain kinds of problem domains. Anything where you have to deal with tabular data, it's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Boy, I'm thinking of a lot of different directions I want to go with this. You mainly concentrate on bash, right? So do you give any treatment to like the fish shell, or going in the other direction, any treatment to just working with SH out of something like, well, I guess most machines will have an SH, but also out of like BusyBox, where you don't have all of the bash niceties works?
I covered that a little bit, but I don't talk about ZSH and I don't talk about fish. And it's very batch centric, but I think I point out in places where this is a batchism and it won't work in Dash or in BusyBox.
Yeah, BusyBox is honestly the one that I have dealt with the most. That's because I've got some background doing OpenWRT stuff. So I've spent some time inside routers on the command line, and that's an experience. You get an education real quick about things that you didn't realize were bashisms.
Right.
So I imagine you would have the same experience working on like a Mac machine, which I've done very little of. But they use their own shell over there too.
Yeah, they're using ZSH now.
Okay. I think
because they were using Bash version 3 because they wouldn't go beyond that because of the changes to the GPL. They're very proprietary, shall we say?
Yes.
And one of the reasons I'm an Apple-free shop here.
So they finally convinced me to get an iPad for doing testing, but other than that, same. I have avoided drinking that particular bit of Kool-Aid. I can't say much. Google is just about as bad in some ways, but
it has definitely gotten worse. I was very deeply into the Google ecosystem, but if you've been following Cory Doctorow in his shitification talks, you know that it's inevitable.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I've got a friend that does a lot with the Android open source project, and over on the Google side, you've got they're moving things out of AOSP into what do they call that? The place Google Services, Google Play Services, I think.
Services, yeah.
Yeah, and so that move things over there, make it harder and harder to have a decent Android experience with just the open source stuff. That's sort of a tangent, although it is one of the things that always amazes and amuses and delights me as well is being able to install something like Termux over on Android and have a full bash experience there. Now, typing on a touchpad is terrible, but being able to have a full bash inside your phone is pretty great.
Yeah, I've got a $79 Walmart Android tablet which has Termux on it, and I use a Bluetooth keyboard with it.
Yeah,
and it's pretty funny. I mean, it's running Vim inside your Android tablet.
Yes, yes, it's great. Be able to SSH from it out to the world.
Yeah,
I like it. Do you cover SSH? That's an interesting question. I always consider SSH to be like a superpower. I always feel like I'm in the Matrix when I'm SSH'd from one computer to a second one, and then from there to a third one.
Yeah, I cover that in the book.
Do you dive into any of the SSH tricks like port tunneling and the shortcut to be able to pull up the in session menu?
I don't talk about in-session menus, but I do talk about port tunneling a little bit. It's a little, in the weeds for the book, but I used to talk about how to send X through SSH, how to do tunneling that way.
Right.
But that's become irrelevant, and I think I removed that in the new edition because in the Wayland world we don't do that anymore.
Well, I mean, you can. There's stuff like Waypipe, but it is different. This is true. This is true. All right. So what's the first thing when someone picks up the book and wants to get started? What's like the first thing that you try to teach them? What do you think? What do you find to be the most sort of fundamental of the things you try to teach in the book?
Well, the very first thing I talk about in the book is there's this thing called the shell, and you have a thing called a terminal emulator, and go find it in the menus, and then launch it, and then type some gibberish into it and see what happens. That's the very first thing I do.
That's great. And so, do you get to talk to folks that that kind of use the book or the website as their introduction to the shell? Do you get feedback from people?
Oh yeah, I get a lot of really kind emails from people who are deeply appreciative of the fact that I've given the book away, and that I get a certain percentage of people who say the book changed my life, that it put me on a course to go into cybersecurity or development and so on.
Yeah,
one email I'm particularly fond of, and I brag about this all the time, so please forgive me.
No, it's fine.
Which is the first sentence of the email was, "You are a global treasure." And that will really brighten your day.
Yes.
When you get one of those.
Yes. Yeah, that's really cool. I was gonna go a particular direction with that question. Let's see if I can remember what it was. Do you have a sense then of like how many people are reading the book just to brush up on their existing user Linux experience, or do people find the command line through this book or through the website? I'm just curious, like what the onboarding experience is.
I would say both. That there's a bunch of people who will read portions of the book and not read all of it, because I get reports from users or from readers reporting like typos and so on, and the most reports come in the first few chapters of the book, and nothing ever gets reported about the latter chapters. So people read probably the first part of the book, which deals with kind of the basic command line stuff that you do, like typing, file copying, wandering the file system, navigation, processes, permissions, and stuff like that. The basic stuff. The later parts of the book talk about all kinds of tools that you can use on the command line, and then the final part of the book deals with scripting. And in the middle, I talk about the environment and how to configure it and how to use Vim to prepare you for all the things that are going to happen. So, most of the reports I get are for people who have read the first few chapters of the book, which covers, the very fundamental basic things you need to know how to do.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. I remember where I was actually thinking about going with that question, and that is, are people still generally interested in the command line, or is the GUI taking over? And I guess this is kind of an old debate, but I'm curious your thoughts on it. Like, I've talked to some people that it's like, I want to learn about computers, but man, don't make me go into that black window with the white text. I'm scared of that.
Well, in the introduction of the book, I talk a little bit about this, and I have this little story that I tell, which is that, if I might quote myself here, if I can remember it exactly. In the movies where you see the super hacker, the guy who can break into the ultra secure military computer in 30 seconds. You ever notice how he never touches a mouse? And it's because filmmakers know that humans instinctively know that the only way to get something done on a computer is by typing at a keyboard.
Oh, that's great. It's funny. That's an interesting tangent, but it's funny. You've got some movies that the hacker is just, spamming at the keyboard, and then magical things happen with the screen, and it's ridiculous.
Right.
I really enjoy those few movies where they work really hard to get it right. There's a scene from, I think, the second Matrix movie where they used real command line tools. Ironically, the second Tron movie, the one that's, I don't know, I guess a decade old now, which makes me feel old. They did the same thing. They used real command line tools and made it look very futuristic, but it was actually just, I think it was running inside of Emacs.
Okay.
And then like another scene was basically a Solaris shell.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that kind of stuff. I think it's really cool when even film in particular, when they actually take the trouble to get it right and not just be ridiculous.
Right. I noticed that the Social Network movie was very accurate about command line stuff and using KDE and so on. I was very impressed that usually in movies, accuracy is kind of secondary to, cinematic experience.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's a good way to put. That's a very charitable way to put that.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about VI and Vim. Is that the only text editor that gets love in the book, or do you hold people by the hand?
I talk about Nano, but I kind of discount it.
What? Well, come now.
One of the jokes in the book that gets probably the most reaction is I have at the beginning of the chapter on Vim, which is called A Gentle Introduction to VI parentheses M close parentheses. I talk about the reasons why you should use it, and I go through like the fact that it's almost always available, it's lightweight, it's fast,
mm-hmm.
You never have to lift your hands from the keyboard, and you don't want other Linux and Unix users to think you're a pansy,
Oh, that's great. I like it. There's so many of those fun. I guess they were quite serious holy wars at one point, but now they've just become in jokes and
mm-hmm.
Things that we all laugh about.
Like Emacs versus VI.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
yes. Although ironically, we're seeing our own generation of holy wars with things around like whether the Rust language is good or not, whether it belongs in the kernel, and whether
mm-hmm.
you should use Rust or Go or C++. And people do get quite passionate about some of those things I have seen.
Right.
Do you dive into any of the other scripting languages? We mentioned awk briefly, but do you have a intro to any sort of intro to Python or any of those things?
Well, I have a chapter on compiling software because I have an exercise in there where you download a tarball from the GNU project and expand the thing, do .configure, mm-hmm. and then run make and build it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very simple exercise with a pretty small code base. And I talk in the beginning of that chapter, I talk about the different kinds of software, how things are built. I talk about interpreted languages, and I talk about a little bit about Python and Perl and to some extent Bash, because it's an interpreted language.
Mm-hmm.
And then I talk about compiled languages, and I talk about assembler. Just to give somebody an introduction of what does the programming ecosystem look like in the most broad, categories.
Do you cover how to get out of dependency hell at all in that?
No. There is no way out of dependency hell.
Well, I mean, that is actually true. It's sad but true. I remember one of my first experiences trying to compile something. I didn't really understand how the package manager worked at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to compile something, and I didn't have... this has been years and years ago, and I don't remember what package it was I was missing. I was missing some fundamental package, and me and my ignorance, I just went and downloaded that tarball and started trying to build that first.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up accidentally trying to do my own Linux from scratch, and finally someone pointed out to me, you have a package manager and you can install dev packages from the package manager. It's like,
right.
Would have appreciated someone holding my hand for that first experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I started out in Linux was hard to use.
Everything was Linux from scratch back then, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you really haven't lived until you've edited mode lines in an xconfig file to get your monitor to work right.
I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever had to do. It seems like I've had some device that had a mode line problem. I think it was a phone. I think it was some weird old phone that I was trying to run Termex on, and I ended up having to do an edit there to make something work. So yes, but that is an esoteric thing. Like, there are a very limited number of people that know how to edit those mode line files.
Right. Oh, it's hairy. I mean, I don't know how to figure out what you put in that thing, but I know where you could get the information and put it in. The guys who figured out, this is the video timing that you need to worry about. That's hairy stuff.
Yes.
The people who work on VLC or work on FMEPEG. I mean, those guys. Those people are deities, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, very much wizard level. All right, so we do have a live audience, and one of them just asked something. And so those of you playing the drinking game at home, take a drink. We're about to ask about AI. Quippy says, this is where Gemini and Claude Code come in very handy.
I hate that stuff.
I'm not surprised, but I'm curious why.
Well, I would say that it presents two basic problems. One is, three actually. It's not reliable. Some recent studies have shown that programmers who use it end up spending more time checking it and fixing it than they do getting any productivity gain.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think it makes code that's kind of opaque, and you might end up with a lot of technical debt and inability to maintain the code in the long term. Mm-hmm. And third, by having them do it, you don't learn anything. So it kind of de-skills you, which I don't think is economically valuable to the individual.
Yeah. So one thing you mentioned in your bio is that you've ridden 3 waves in your career.
Yeah.
I would say, and I think you mentioned this even there, that the current AI craze is yet another wave. Tell us about those 3 waves. I'm curious.
Okay. Well, when I first started doing computer work, I started doing it in college when I was an industrial design student. I did a computer graphics course in the experimental studios department, and they had an IBM System 370 with a CalComp plotter on it, and they had written a specialized programming language called SPLAT, the Simplified Programming Language for Artists, which you would sit down at the key punch machine, punch cards, drop the deck into the reader, and then come back in a few hours and see if your job had run.
Oh.
That was my college level work in computers. I got my first computer in 1978, the year after I graduated, and it was a TRS-80 Model 1. And I proceeded to write some art software on it. And I thought that in the first few days that I'd had that computer, I'd used more computer time than I had the entire of my college.
Probably accurate.
Yeah, because they used to charge by the minute CPU time on the mainframe.
Yeah.
So I was teaching at the time. I was teaching photography and mechanical drawing at a private school, a high school. And I left there and got a job at a little computer graphics company near, not far from where I lived, in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And this was at the beginning of the PC era. This was in 1985, and I rode that wave really well. The the PC explosion. second wave I rode was the early internet wave around 2000.
.com.
Yeah, and I was working at that same company. What was I doing then? Actually, I had left there, gone to work on the FBI contract that I did for 4 years in the Solaris shop. And then I came back. I got recruited back to the company I had been, and went through the .com bubble. That was a very strange time because it was really hard to hire people. I was in management, and it you couldn't hire people for love nor money because everybody wanted to be in a company that was about to do an IPO. I got included in the Red Hat IPO because I had been filing bugs on their Spark version of Red Hat Linux, and I got invited into that IPO.
Nice.
And the third wave is the Linux wave, where I have made some money from writing a book. And, I've done that. And the next one is probably AI, though I think AI is going to go through a big shift soon, in my opinion, that all this data center construction is going to blow up in everybody's face because nobody's figured out a good way of paying for all of it. If you spend $1 trillion, you need to have some serious revenue stream coming out of it. And nobody's done it yet. And I think that they're going to have a terrible reckoning over the finances of all this capital expenditure they've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the observations we've made is that each of these could be described as a bubble, but each of them as a bubble, when the bubble bursts, it still changed the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be the same thing with AI. I've got another friend who says they're not bubbles, they're balloons, and some of the air gets let out of the balloon, but it's still around. Well, that's an interesting way to put it. That's a fair analogy.
Yeah, because the technology will persist, but the businesses that try to exploit it will not.
Some of them will definitely go away.
Yeah,
for sure. I saw, I don't remember if it was in your bio or over on the website, but I saw a bit of advice that you gave to people that want to be programmers, and some of it was a bit mercenary, but I thought it was really interesting. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tell people to work hard, save your money, and retire early. I retired when I was 50.
Nice.
And I've been retired for a long time, and it gave me a chance to do what I really wanted to do, which is to write this book and make the world a little better than the way I found it. So, yeah, and I say that, programming is mostly a young person's game. When you get old, like in your 40s and 50s, nobody wants to hire you anymore because they can't make you work 80 hours a week. and because you might have, a family or something. So you need to have an exit strategy to get out of programming and get into something else. And also, if you're in a situation where you're, working for somebody, a rich guy, and making him richer, make sure you get your cut.
Yeah, that's the one. I think that's actually fairly important for young programmers to think about. When you're a programmer, you make really good money. I've seen this firsthand. Programmers make really good money, and it's tempting to buy the big house and get the big mortgage. But that programming job may not last forever. Things change, and I think that advice to be a little bit mercenary is pretty important. To at least think through those things.
Yeah, take care of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. You have the Adventures in Linux book is coming. Do you have a sort of an idea of when that's going to be a real thing? When it's going to become a real boy?
Well, it's available now as a PDF that you can download. There's 14 chapters in it. I wrote most of them during lockdown, and I originally planned it to be about 30 or 35 chapters, like my current book. And I may eventually, if I live long enough to finish it, I will, because I'm getting on in age, and I don't know how much more of this I've got in me.
Sure. At what point is it going to get a physical copy? Is it going to get published too?
No Starch has not reached out to me to commercially publish this book yet.
Yet.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you're listening. Well, hopefully, it sounds like that would be a fun follow-on. I will have to order at least the one. I would like to have it on my bookshelf. I was thinking, I've got a large bookshelf. Obviously, the camera can't see it, but over here on this side of the screen, I've got a large set of bookshelves. And I've been thinking this whole time, I'm pretty sure I have at least one No Starch Press book. And I haven't seen it yet, but I think it's up there somewhere. If not, I need to order a few, because I do like them as a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Need to pick some up.
Well, I've got a copy of my new one right here.
Nice. It's a soft cover?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's about 600 pages.
Oh wow.
So it's a big Hummer.
A lot of book.
Yeah, a lot of book.
Yeah. So you've been doing the programming thing, the command line thing for 30 years now. What's changed? And I have a story here too, but I want to get your thoughts first.
Well, first off, I want to say it doesn't change very much. That one of the things I talk about in the introduction of the book is the fact that, if you learn this skill now, 10 years from now, it'll still work, which is very much unlike many other things in the computing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the shell and the core utils, which is the bulk of the book, hardly change at all.
And
what you have instead,
and when they do change, it's considered a bug.
Yeah, and what you do have is you have certain tools that come in and out of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Nano gains features and it's become more popular over the years compared to the way it was when it was really just a clone of the Pico editor from the Pine email client. And in this new edition of the book, I move from talking about FDisk to part ed. And also I change from wget to curl, because those are things that are more in fashion now than before. I've also, in the new edition, I de-emphasized optical media since that's gone out of fashion.
I'm a little sad about that one, but it is true.
Yes. I still have DVD burners and I use them. Because I've got computers that, you have to, if you want to install Linux on them, you have to do it from disk.
Yep.
Yes, this machine that I'm talking to today is this is a Framework 13 laptop,
mm-hmm.
and which I like a lot. It's the first new computer I bought myself in about 10 years, and I've got it's sitting on top of a couple of other laptops. One of them is a circa 2003 IBM ThinkPad,
mm-hmm.
which is happily running Debian 12. Even though this computer it's over 20 years old.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that it does that. But I'm very saddened by the fact that support for 32-bit machines is vanishing from Linux distributions. Debian was like the last one, and they've just Debian 13 does not support 32-bit anymore.
Yep. I imagine we'll start seeing some specialized distros specifically to support the older hardware with the 32-bit stuff. So I mean,
mm-hmm.
it's gonna be around in the kernel for forever,
right?
We still did they finally remove the i386 support, or is it still in there? I don't remember which, but very recently that's been a conversation in the kernel.
I think that has. Well, I think it's gone away certainly in Debian. I don't know about the kernel proper.
Right. So my story with this is I worked at a doctor's office one time. I run a small IT shop, have for years, and I went into a doctor's office and they were doing a transition from their old system to their new system, but they said, we still need the old system to work, but they were having some hardware problems with it. And I got in there and I took a look, and it was an old SCO Unix box. It's like, oh, I know what this is. I actually took it home, did a byte for byte copy of the hard drive, and I got SCO Unix running inside of a virtual machine on Linux, and then set it up to, and this is funny too because you talked about optical. I set it up to where every night that Linux box would check and see, is there a blank DVD in the drive? And if there is, it would do a full disk backup of the SCO system onto that DVD with all of their data on it. I was pretty proud of making that work. But the fun thing with that is working, because obviously I had to do some work inside SCO to make it work inside the virtual environment. And so many things were so familiar because it's all based on the same shell. It's all Unix. But there were certain niceties that I was so used to on inside of Bash and on the Linux shell. Like even tab autocompletion and the ability to press the up button to get into history, to repeat something. It's like those didn't work in the old SCO shell. It's like, oh, this was the old times that people talk about where you had to walk uphill both ways in the snow.
That's right. Yeah, Coherent was like that too. It didn't have command line editing like that. And it lacked a lot of the niceties that I fell in love with when I first started using Linux.
Yeah, for sure. There were a lot of things. Like one of the other things about SCO Unix is I don't think it had modules. So if you needed to change what you wanted to load at boot time, you recompiled the kernel. And so that I have recompiled the SCO Unix kernel in that way, and that is something that's probably pretty rare for someone my age. I'm almost 40, so I'm not young anymore, but I'm young enough that I had no business doing that at the time.
I think the BSD Unixes are frequently have kernel compiling done.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's an interesting segue. How much does your book apply to the BSDs?
Insofar as you're using GNU tools on it, lots, but otherwise, no.
That sounds about right. That's been my experience working on them. Okay, so one of the other things I do is the Untitled Linux Show, and we have the command line tip section at the very end where each of the hosts will pick for the week a command line tip. And we've been doing that for years now, and the pickings are getting a little slim, but we've still not run out because there are so many tools on the command line and more being written every day. What has your experience been with that? Like, surely there's always a sort of a punch list of, I suppose I could add this to the book. And you've got to cut it off somewhere, or you said it's 600 pages. Did you include all of them?
Oh yeah, I mean, pretty much everything I know is in that book. And I have a very extensive, bash RC file, and I have another file that I source on all my machines because I've got a lot of computers in here that sets up all the environment for my network at home. So a lot of the stuff I do is very specialized for my particular administration needs. So I don't know that I have a lot of really general tips for people. One of the ones I talk about in that bio you have is a very silly one, which is to simply set the environment variable for man width equals 75, and then put it in an alias, and so man will always come out with nicely margined text when you look at it. So if you're using a giant terminal window, you don't have 400 character wide things in it, which makes it hard to read.
Yes. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. What has the process been like of updating both the online version but also the print version from one edition to the next?
Well, when I start to feel that the text is becoming dated, I undertake a revision to it. The third print edition is a combination of the 6th and the 7th internet editions. Mm-hmm. The 6th edition added the 40 pages that have been added to the current book. And I changed, I added a bunch of new commands that I hadn't covered before. Like I put in nice and re-nice and no-hup, which were in the processes chapter. I switched over, like I said before, from fdisk to part-ed for storage stuff. And I added eval to the Exotica chapter at the end, and included a script on that plays Wordle.
Yes.
And how you have to build this this ever increasingly long pipeline to to filter out the words that don't qualify for what your clues are. Because my wife, she plays all the New York Times word games. So I've written scripts to facilitate those, though she won't use them.
Of course not.
I've got an interesting script that I wish more people would play with and use on my website. It's called New Script, and it's a script template generator where you answer a series of prompts of like what's the script called, what's it do, indicate what the command line options are, so it can build a help function for it. And it will flesh out the script with all the traps and error handling and
it's vibe coding without the LLM behind it.
Pretty much. I mean, it fleshes out the parts to make a nice script, one that's well written, and it puts in a command line parser in it and builds one, and it will help you, write a script that will be a lot better, and you'll do it a lot faster. And I use it all the time. Whenever I start a new script, I just fire that thing up and describe what I'm doing, and then fill in the template with all the actual live logic.
I will plug this. I will mention this on our next ULS, the Untitled Linux show. That is a great command line tip to let folks know about. I'll get you some more beta testers.
Okay.
That's fun. What about, so we talked a little bit about Holy Wars. There is another Holy War, and it is germane to the book. What about System D? You cover some System D administration stuff?
Well, in the current edition of the book, I've pulled out references to the init scripts in Etsy. I don't cover that anymore because it's gone. I mean, hardly anybody there's no mainstream distribution that doesn't use System D now.
Right.
So I talk a little bit about System D, but I don't try to talk about how to administer it.
Outside of the scope.
Right.
Does that one irritate you, or is that just sort of the way it is?
I don't mind it. I think it does some very interesting things, and it solves a bunch of sequencing problems that you have during boot up, and handling services. I have no aversion to it.
That's fair. That's about my conclusion as well. Although I don't like the fact that it's taken over DNS.
Right. The thing I really don't like right now is I don't like these universal package formats: Snap, Flatpak, and App Image. I do not like them. Particularly, I particularly don't like Snap, and the reason why is my main box where I do most of the writing, and I did all the work for the book on it, is a System 76 Ratel from 2015, and I'm running the current LTS version of Ubuntu on it, and the LibreOffice snap on that thing is ungodly slow. I had to put the deb file on instead. That it was just, the book is written as one huge monolithic 600-page LibreOffice document, and it's easier to do that way. The adventures book that I've written so far, I did with separate chapters and a master document, and it's built, from separate components. And it's really kind of unwieldy in LibreOffice to do it that way. Working at a big monolith is much easier, actually. And in the deb version of LibreOffice, it's fast. I mean, I can go up and down that thing, edit and reformat pages and stuff like quick. But the Snap, boy, it is dog slow. And it's just one of the reasons I don't like that thing. Plus, what Snap does to your device table, and you see all these loops in there, and you have to filter that stuff out if you want to look at it. It's just annoying, and it doesn't do me any good, so I don't like it. And I have a rant about it in the book about the universal package formats, that they're good for proprietary software vendors who want to keep it all bundled up, but it's I don't think it's doing the users any favors by gobbling up disk space and memory.
Yeah, I get that. So that is definitely the direction Ubuntu is going. Are you considering a jump over to something like the Fedora side?
Well, this framework laptop I'm on right now is running Fedora 43 with KDE Plasma, which I like a lot, and I think I'm going to probably move to Plasma generally. I've got a Debian box in here that's running that, but my main box is still running Ubuntu. I don't mind the user interface in Ubuntu at all. I think it's fine. I don't like plain GNOME. It requires too much clicking to get anything done. But the changes that Ubuntu has made is fine. I don't have any problem with it. I've used a lot of desktop environments in my time, and they don't bother me. I don't freak out about them.
Have you gone and tried the new Cosmic Desktop yet? From System
No, I have
76?
not.
That one does look interesting. If nothing else, I appreciate their audacity to be willing to try it, I suppose. Start the whole thing from scratch.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that distribution, about its long-term viability, because doing a distribution is a big deal, especially doing a good one, because you've got to have a lot of infrastructure behind it, and you've got to have, people looking at security. You've got to have, proper technique on how to do quality assurance on it. And it's challenging. I mean, everybody's brothers come out with a distribution. There's hundreds and hundreds of them, but how many of them have any long-term viability?
Right.
I think Fedora does, because IBM's behind that one, though they'll probably pull the rug out from under it soon.
I hope not. I don't know where I'll go if Fedora goes away.
Yeah, and Canonical, you'll go to Red Hat Enterprise Linux and you'll pay for it. Canonical, it seems to be still okay. But Linux Mint, I like that distribution. My wife's computer has that on it, and Cinnamon, which is kind of like Plasma Lite. And it's all right. I like Plasma more, but it's, I wonder about Linux Mint's long-term viability, basically because of how do they fund this thing.
Yeah, I've had that thought too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've got a new computer I've been playing with. Actually, I like quite a bit. I wonder if you saw, it's the Argon 41 Up. This is not sponsored. I paid for this thing myself. I just really like it. And it's got the cute little logo on the screen. But one of the interesting things about this is the whole laptop, it's a Raspberry Pi CM5. And then it's the whole laptop shell built around that. And it's kind of like the same size as a Framework 13. It reminds me of my wife's Framework 13. So let's point out what's going on here. My wife has the Framework 13, and I will occasionally steal it, and she gets tired of that. And so when I pick that thing up, it's like it's just powerful enough to do everything I need it to do, and I can SSH into one of the bigger machines to compile or whatever. And I've been using that as kind of that grab and go machine to have on my lap while I'm putting a kid to sleep or something. And it's worked rather well. But it's a Raspberry Pi CM5, and I put Raspberry Pi OS on it, and I'm running KDE on it. And I am actually really surprised how well KDE runs on there. I expected it to be a sort of a problem, and it's not. So I don't know that KDE, all that to say, I don't know that KDE needs a lightweight version. It's pretty lightweight these days itself.
Yeah, I was impressed by that too. That I have the Debian machine, a Debian 13 I have sitting over here is a dual core Intel machine from a long time ago. Very slow machine with, I think it's maxed out at 4 gigs of RAM. And it runs KDE just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very impressed because most of the old machines that I have, my 32-bit machines, I use XFCE on them. But Plasma really impressed me about how zippy it is on small, slow hardware.
Yeah, I think they've really worked hard on that. All right, we have hit the bottom of the hour. It has gone by very fast. It's been a blast to talk to you. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to let folks know about?
Let me think. Oh, yes. If you would like to support my work, please buy a copy of the print book, and preferably buy it directly from No Starch Press.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, so we get to not fund any fascistic middlemen. Okay.
I mean, you could leave the adjective out of there. You don't want to fund any billionaire middleman. You want the people to do the work to get the money as much as possible. Yep. Is there an audiobook version of it? Can I get it on Audible?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, though I think that somebody has done like an AI voice version of the book. I mean, I've seen crazy stuff on YouTube, and
yes.
It's I think somebody may have done it, but it's like that would be insane. I don't know how you express the command line, verbally in any sort of way that would make sense to anybody.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure that would work. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit, but I've got to ask final questions. What's your favorite text editor and scripting language?
Oh, well, Bash Shell is my favorite scripting language, and Vim is my favorite text editor.
I figured that's what it would be. All right. Thank you so much for being here. It has been a blast to get to talk to you, sir, and thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, well, thank you for having me.
All right, that is Bill Schultz. Shots. I'm terrible with names. Bill Shots. Goodness gracious. And appreciate him very much being here talking about his book, which I think I'm going to order as soon as we get done here. Don't tell my wife, although she listens to the show, so she already knows. She probably already knew that I was going to order it. It'll be all right. It'll be our little secret. Anyway, we do not yet have a guest for next week, so if you know of somebody that needs to be on the show, let us know. You can shoot us an email at floss@hackaday.com, and we will get them scheduled. And we appreciate it. Other than that, thank you so much to everyone that's here, those that watch and listen, whether you get us live or on the download, and we'll be back next week with another Floss Weekly.